But for a founder, it's always 0 or 1. How do they really navigate some of these things in terms of being mentally strong through these
And are you
exercises?
talking in the intersection of fintech or the whole
We can talk specifically about fintech given all the regulatory overheads and everything else.
Yeah, because especially for fintech, there is a regulator extra
That's
that is
correct.
well beyond other startups.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
first of all, thank you so much. Cheers to the host, first of all. Cheers! DPIPT. So it's very, very clear that when you're building a startup, you're going anti-gravity. Basically, you are opposing something that exists. You're not satisfied with something that exists and you are the first customer of it. And that is how the genesis of startup goes. Now, the very fact that you are up against the current norm or current structure means that you're going to have huge resistance to customer, huge resistance to the current ecosystem and so on. So entrepreneurs, each of them here and you included, all of us have to handle huge amount of pressure like an everyday thing. So first of all, if you are like a fainted heart that this happened and what will I do, then this is not for you. And that is also the sequencing of what remains in the end kind of thing. And it is very tough to remain the last two startups. This is a slang I'm using that there are of 100 only two survive in the end. Now net, it is number one that you should be ready to handle unexpected things, and none of this is expected because you will more or less be in the domain and expertise which is may or may not be yours, and the problems that you will handle will be the ones that team cannot handle, which simply means that you are supposed to handle stress like no other, and that should be your back end skill, if you will. So that is in my opinion the first skill. And second is that you have to have an audacious ambition of changing something or other that exists today as a contemporary. Whether you're talking about fintechs or whether you're talking about generic consumer products, I love my food delivery companies just in case because they change the way the food gets delivered, and I want that to be like it takes a lot to do that.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. I think Jitendra probably agrees with you because I was watching a couple of his talks, in preparation for this panel, I think, and he talks about why he's becoming a founder because I think after Citrus Pay he had a lot of options. I think he could have become an investor also, but he said that was easy. So he said, I like tough jobs and I want to do tough things. So I think he's here building Jupiter. So I wanted to ask, what does it really take to become a founder? Because I know, like VSS sir said, I think you have to expect the unexpected in most cases, especially in fintech, given the regulatory overarching, say, bunch of stipulations also. But how do you really kind of make up your mind, and what do you really look forward to when you're building, say, in neobanking? Because, for example, nobody really did a lot of stuff in neobanking when you started. Obviously, once you started, a lot of other people who came in. But how did you really start? Where did the idea really come from?
Yeah, so having done payments in Citrus Pay and did bit of lending during my PayU days through the Pay Later product in Lazy Pay. Frankly, the realization was that the payments and lending consumers were looking very, very transactionally, and they were optimizing it for point in time. And well, fintech is all about payments and lending. I want to sort of caveat that. That being said, that was the realization, and I said you have to sort of gravitate towards the offering which is more relationship driven with the consumer. And this is where, if you look at it, the banking is the most relationship driven offering towards the consumer, and that's how we got into the neo banking as a sector. Not sure whether I would say that that was the wisest of the decision. Frankly, it's tough. It's very tough to build in this sector because rather you are asking consumer to trust you without having any brand, and you're asking consumers to park their money with you, which is like a toughest thing in the Indian market or anywhere in the world for that matter. So, it's a business where you have to stay put for a long time. You have to keep doing same boring things every day, every week, every month, without having any immediate gratification of the outcome from the business within the same moment. So my advice to anyone who is getting into especially fintech is the staying put for long time is the only way to grow in these kind of businesses, and you need to have that cockroach mentality that come what may, you will stay put.
I'll ask a question to Sachin. Do you guys know this? This country's first $1 billion check for any startup was written for Sachin Bansal's company. So he truly revolutionized the way we could think about what startups are. Now that he's here as a fintech founder, I have a question which is more or less in the same spirit. It was unplanned, but you know the question could be, you've been a technology entrepreneur, did the retail. Now you are a fintech entrepreneur. How different and difficult it is or easy it is?
Yeah, so it's a very different ball game altogether. What I've realized over time, and of course, it was not something that I was completely unexpected. Fintech space, I think, in most industries, you worry mostly about customers, competition, investors, employees, and all of that, right? So, in some order of importance that you have for your own situation. But in fintech, regulator becomes an extremely important stakeholder when you have to think about it on a daily basis. And in fact, to a certain extent, sometimes depending on the situations or depending on how the wave is kind of flowing, they can become sometimes the most important stakeholder in the equation, at the detriment of sometimes customers and employees and so on and so forth. Right. So I think if the regulations are changing very quickly, which has been the case in India the last couple of years with all the regulators, you will be. I mean, new stuff will come at you at very very fast speed, and you have to just constantly deal with it. Right? It's like getting punched in a boxing ring, and then you have to collect yourself and keep going in some ways, right? So it happens. So I think, but the fact is that okay, that was on the setting that all aside, right? The fact is that these are huge problems to be solved, which means essentially there are huge opportunities available in the space. If you, as you said, right, Vijay, that if you don't mind it, essentially, then if you don't mind the pain, then it's very rewarding. You will solve problems for billions of people. You will get rewarded for it very well, and the change that you will bring about will be quite significant. I think that's a good part of it. But yes, it does require dealing with this. I mean, any startup, whether you are a small manufacturing unit somewhere in, let's say, Jaipur, to you are building a large tech-driven company serving global people or Indian people at large scale, any business is running it is painful, right? So new stuff happens every day at very fast speed. But in the fintech space, the level goes up a little bit here. I think.
Oh, very interesting. I'll take this for Alok also because I know him.
Sorry, I have one follow-up for Sachin. I think when Sachin started Navi, I think he was talking about unfinished business. So I think it's been a couple of years now. So what is that unfinished business? I'm sure the media folks are watching and they want to cover it for sure.
Yeah, I think Vijay and I talked quite extensively after I exited Flipkart, and he jokingly said that you are the most unhappiest billionaire I've ever seen, or somebody who has $1 billion exit I've ever seen. I think I was extremely unhappy after the exit because it was not something that I had planned. I think it just happened. So essentially that's the unfinished business where the goal was to take the platform that I had created or helped create to 1 billion people eventually, right? To serve 1 billion people at large scale, even globally over time. That was kind of the unfinished business that I'm still pursuing.
Awesome. Alok, you're the most legendary fintech founder for all of us because you have the most successful company. It makes money, it has a market cap, it has customer base, and it is dominating like no one. What is the secret of your handling of different stakeholders and being an entrepreneur like that?
Shareholders, I'll come separately, maybe. But because you asked about regulators in fintech, the way I would like everyone to think about it, they have equal seating on the table. You consider them to be another CXO on the table, basically. So if you have 4 CXOs, regulator and the government is another CXO in fintech business. and you have to give them that much space. That's the way to sort of adjust mentally to it. Because I mean, the influence they can have on your business can be very drastic and can be sometimes unpredictable. In our case, somehow we were able to sort of predict because we were engaging quite a lot with them. So we were always ready before some major change happened. But yeah, it can be very, very, very tough to manage if you're not prepared.